friendo, Steve here. Welcome to another Ask Russell Juice. Once again, y'all left a bunch of great questions. Remember, if you hit that subscribe button, a little notify bell, you'll get notified whenever I post up a questions thread at our community tab, so you can ask a question for Russell Juice as well. I answered a bunch of these questions already in text form, and then I took a bunch more and I highlighted them for this video here. So with Double or Nothing coming up this weekend, keeping that in mind, and of course, the last couple videos I've talked about CM Punk versus Hangman Page. Raz GG asked this: from your video about Punk winning the title over Page, you mentioned that babyface champions are hard to book. From an alternate timeline, what would you have liked to have seen during his reign if his reign ends at Double or Nothing? So I liked that they started with Bryan Danielson. I appreciate that. However, I think because so much of the story that led up to Hangman winning the title had to do with Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks, and then Adam Cole shows up, I feel like they should have immediately pivoted into that. Because you had, I mean, I know it was a little bit after that, but you had Red Dragon, Kyle O'Reilly, and Bobby Fish showing up, and I feel like that's one story that really hasn't been given a whole lot of time to develop. They sort of touched on it, but Adam Cole, for some reason, it feels like he's sort of fallen to the background a little bit. Of course, he's in this Owen tournament and he's going to win this Owen tournament, which is great, but he had 2 matches against Hangman, and the story itself really wasn't that involved. Like, there wasn't a whole lot of twists and turns. And I feel like if you'd have taken sort of the relationship between the Young Bucks and Page, which they touched on, but didn't really dive too deep into, I feel like there could have been something a little bit more complex there with Cole, Red Dragon, and the Bucks. Especially given that Red Dragon sort of came on around that time, you could have timed their signing with a Hangman Page story to add some intrigue to it. I don't have the exact details or a blueprint or any notes written on a legal pad somewhere, but I feel like once Hangman won the title, he just came off like an isolated dude. It reminded me very much of when Daniel Bryan won the WWE title back at WrestleMania 30, and immediately following, I mean, I know he got injured like a month later, but like they put him in a story with Kane as opposed to involve him in the A story with like the Authority and all that. Although I think Kane was part of the Authority, whatever. It felt more isolated than the entire company sort of revolving around the champion, which is how I think it should be. So yeah, that would be my thing. I'm not sure having Hangman go to a time limit draw against Danielson in the first place was a great idea. I think they probably should have dived into the Adam Cole stuff instead, off the top. So yeah, I mean, I think that the champion, that all the stories should revolve around your champion and then spread outwards from there. I mean, I definitely don't think he should have done the Lance Archer thing. It was a cool Texas death match, but nobody ever took Lance Archer seriously. Next, Atticus asks, where does Wardlow go after his feud with MJF? He feels like the most popular star in the company right now. Might be too soon to make him world champion and all out, but if they wait a year, it might be too late. Man, I mean, this has been such a good story. I kind of feel like no matter what happens after Sunday, whatever happens next is going to be a bit of a letdown. So again, you got to keep on stacking the odds against Wardlow. I mean, there is no authority in AEW, but maybe you put him up against, and this is probably going to be a bad idea, but you put him up against Jericho Appreciation Society, maybe have Wardlow get a win and over Chris Jericho. He's got 4 guys with him, including a big man like Hager. And, you know, Jericho can sort of make the comparison to Goldberg, which fans are already kind of doing, and you can show us why Wardlow is not Goldberg. Of course, Jericho had issues with Goldberg back in 1998 before he left the company. So maybe you can pull from that history that Jericho has with Goldberg. Hell, I don't know if Goldberg signed a Legends deal with WWE, but maybe bring Goldberg in for that. This is all a bad idea. I probably shouldn't have said that, but I'm going to leave it in anyways. Lick says, do you think people will miss Kevin Dunn's production style once he's gone, since it's synonymous with WWE's presentation? No, I don't think I don't think they will miss the negative aspects of it, but trying to replicate the positive aspects of it might be easier said than done. One thing AEW doesn't do quite as well as WWE, which you can credit to Kevin Dunn, is capturing all the story beats in a way that makes the story more compelling. He actually does a pretty good job at that. AEW, they're getting better, but they still need to keep up. They need to catch up a little bit with Kevin Dunn. What nobody will miss is the crash zooms and the 5 different camera angles per second. Nobody's going to miss that shit. It's obnoxious. But you also don't want to slow the production down to a halt. So maybe you can limit it to like 2 cuts per second. I don't know. Whoever comes in is probably going to mimic his style anyways. Deep Voice Dude says, do you think as long as AEW exists in its current form, will WWE always prefer big former football player types as their main eventers, and AEW will prefer small indie wrestler types? I don't know that AEW will always prefer that, because I think that Wardlow is going to be, I think that AEW is going to learn that when you have a big monster who can do everything, like Wardlow probably will be a well-rounded wrestler. I think he's already kind of there, but he's only going to get better. I think when they realize you can have a big man, and I think he's only like 6'1", he's not that big, but comparatively speaking to everybody else, he's really big. I think they're going to see the value in that. And I think WWE is going to keep on looking for those big monster types. But, and I do think the days of guys like Finn Balor, maybe even AJ Styles being at the top are probably gone. Guys that are like 5'11", I don't think that WWE is going to focus on them that much. I think that they're really going to go after those college athletes and try to develop them in-house. At the same time, it's WWE. Next week, they might completely change their philosophy based on market research or whatever. So I don't know. I would never say WWE will always do anything, because it's WWE and Vince changes his mind a lot. So I don't know. Funky Phil says, do you think AEW should utilize more one-off appearances from free agents? If so, who'd you like to see? Yeah, it always pops me whenever they bring in. Like Big Damo was on the other week. He lost to Shawn Spears. I like that stuff. I think it pops the crowd. It gauges their reaction to a certain person. If somebody's really over, maybe they'll keep them around. I don't think there's any negatives to it. I think it's cool. I think, yeah, do you want to utilize your roster a bit better? Maybe. But, I like that. I think it's a win-win for everybody. Shavon says, the past few AEW pay-per-views have been amazing. However, there's always something about NXT takeovers that made those shows special. I have and always will be a stan for black and gold NXT in its prime. His question basically is, what do you prefer? AEW pay-per-views or NXT takeovers? There was something very special about NXT takeovers. You always knew you were going to get the cream of the crop in terms of wrestling. The thing about AEW is that, I hate saying this, but at this point, those pay-per-views are basically takeovers done main roster style. And I like the big production aspect of things. As much as I really love those takeovers, I thought they were terrific. I do love me a good AEW pay-per-view. The thing that I do love about the NXT takeovers, they're usually like 2.5, 3 hours long. They were like the sort of forerunner of, hey, we want shorter, more effective, more efficient wrestling shows, like for big events. And I really appreciated that about takeovers. AEW pay-per-views are too long because I only do 4 a year. Red Tube says, do you think Tony has booked his championships poorly? In Red Tube's opinion, Hangman's reign has been underwhelming. Scorpio Sky's reign had the rug pulled out when his undefeated streak ended for no valid reason. Jungle Express feels like transitional champions, and the women's championship feels like an afterthought. Jade Cargill has been booked very well. And in fact, she's been booked as sort of the top women's champion in AEW. And it wouldn't shock me to see her become a champ, taking that title off Thunder Rosa. I don't know if that's going to happen, but I wouldn't be surprised if that happened. Has he booked his championships poorly? Like I said, booking face champions isn't easy. Not everybody can get it. I think right now is kind of an outlier because I think Kenny's reign was really, really well done. Mox, he had his title during the pandemic. That was kind of difficult, but I thought he did a pretty good job with it. So, yeah, I don't know. I think it's fine. Yeah, we're sort of all waiting for Jurassic Express to drop those titles. I get that. I totally feel that. The TNT title is a mess right now, but I don't know. It's not an uncompelling mess. It's not a boring mess. They do stuff to make us talk about it. Taking a sledgehammer was definitely a thing. Sayavush Kurbanov. So, Steve, do you think the natural-born thrillers of WCW could be in our times as the bloodline today in WWE with all titles? So, the natural-born thrillers, Jindrak, O'Hare, above average Mike something. Wasn't Kevin Nash part of that group at some point? And anyways, a bunch of young studs in WCW. Could they have been the bloodline in WCW? I think that's probably kind of what they had wanted to do with them. They were all like future champion guys. Clearly, Mark Jindrak, Marco Corleone would have been the Roman Reigns of the group. But I don't know. I think WCW missed the boat when they had a bunch of legit potential main eventers as the youth of their roster, like Raven, Benoit, Guerrero, Rey Mysterio, Chris Jericho, maybe Dean Malenko. Yeah, he couldn't have been a main eventer. They had Goldberg. They had a legit class of like next generation guys who could take that reign from the Hogans and the Macho Mans, and they just completely dropped the fucking ball with it. And they think that these dudes coming up from the WCW power plant were going to be the thing. Nope. Didn't happen. I don't know if it could have happened. I love me some Jindrak, though. I think he's terrific. O'Hare was cool, too. Chris Wright says, with Double or Nothing this weekend and Dominion happening less than 2 weeks, will either company have enough time to properly build towards Forbidden Door at the end of June? They've already started. They started on Dynamite last night. I think Forbidden Door doesn't need to be story heavy. You put a bunch of people in the ring together. Some have stories already. Some don't. Some have styles that are similar. And people are going to go crazy for it. I think that this is a thing that they literally could do no builds for it whatsoever. They could do a mystery vortex type thing. Not even announce the matches until the card itself, and people would go crazy for it. That's not a terrible idea, to be honest with you. Gwen Mendoza says, if you had to pick one stable from wrestling history to start a promotion around, what stable would you choose? That's easy. It's Evolution. It had the past, the present, and 2 futures of wrestling. It would be Evolution. Mr. Montana says, how do you think AEW could improve its reach, whether it be on social media, followers, YouTube views, bigger sponsors, etc.? Oh, man, I don't know. They need like their Mike Tyson moment. They had a Mike Tyson moment, but it was crap. So they need a more relevant Mike Tyson type moment. They need an NWO type thing that really sort of gets them to that next level. But honestly, you just put on good shows. People are starting to come around to AEW in terms of like casual fans, or lapsed fans that might still want to be into wrestling. I get the feeling that they're starting to come around to it. But you get some big moments. You get some more big signings. Maybe you do a couple well-timed, well-placed celebrity things here or there. It takes time. It takes time to sort of percolate into the mainstream. They'll get there. Tristan A says, what would be your top 5 original themes in AEW? I would go with Ricky Starks. His theme song is amazing. I'd go with Adam Cole. His is really good. I would go with, here's a couple mentioned here. Oh, FTR's is up there, but FTR's is just sort of a remake of the Midnight Express theme and a Giorgio Moroder disco song called Chase. So those 3, I would say those 3 are good. I mean, otherwise you got like licensed stuff. I like Daniel Bryan's sort of theme song, the Flight of the Valkyrie reimagined thing. I think that's a good one. And then nobody else really stands out to me, to be honest with you. Ricky Starks is really, really damn good, though. I like the Keith Lee one is good. I think the Keith Lee one is really good. Let's see here. Mitchell says, with 2024 being a ways off, do you think the story of where will MJF will go from intriguing to annoying? He says, personally, I'm getting sick of what seems to be daily updates on him. Nah, because it'll have twists and turns. It'll have twists and turns. That stuff's always intriguing. Will it get redundant? Maybe. But yeah. FSI says, who else in AEW or elsewhere could get the Cody treatment coming into WWE? So I can't think of any. Maybe MJF. MJF's a good answer, actually. He says, but are there any others? Think about MJF. I think his theme music is public domain, too. Could anybody else get the Cody treatment? So somebody who keeps their name, somebody who keeps like maybe their theme song or their general gimmick. I'd say maybe like Jay White. Maybe Jay White from New Japan, possibly. And some people have some Jay White questions. So yeah, maybe that's sort of a name that stands out. Maybe a Will Ospreay. Like a guy who can keep his name is probably Will Ospreay. Let's see here. He says another question, if you like. Could It's Just Business CM Punk be a good direction to make him a heel? Yeah, and it wouldn't shock me if he went heel, like full on heel at Double or Nothing and won that title. Let's see here. Mr. Elson K says, what are you currently enjoying in wrestling right now? He says, in terms of feud, storyline, matches, show format from any company. NXT UK. It's like one of my favorite things in wrestling right now because all the characters have excellent chemistry. The stories are well told. The wrestling is really good. It's only an hour a week. I really like NXT UK. I wish they had full packed crowds, though. Let's see here. Taco Kilu says, since WWE almost had a deal with New Japan, who would you want to see in a WWE Forbidden Door premium live event? Man, give me Roman Reigns. Give me Kazuchika Okada versus Randy Orton. I think that's a good match. And then maybe like Roman Reigns versus, or like the Bloodline versus, the Bloodline versus the Empire would be fun. That'd be cool because you have Ospreay versus Roman Reigns. I think that could be a lot of fun. That could be cool. But you probably want Ospreay versus Seth Rollins, to be honest with you. Masked Man, what character or gimmick do you feel was miscast? And which wrestler would you give the gimmick to that you feel could pull it off better? So this is sort of a cheaty answer and ignores the second part of this question. But I feel like when Jay White first showed up as Switchblade, I was like, who is this child? Well, I knew who he was, but I was like, I feel like he should be grizzled and like, I don't know, older to portray this Switchblade gimmick. And then he got a bit more grizzled and he got older and now he's amazing. And I love Switchblade. I think he's terrific. But when he first showed up as Switchblade, I was like, I don't know if this works for him. Anyways, that's going to do it for us. Thanks everybody for tuning in. I appreciate it. Check out this other video right here where I explain to you why I've been convinced that Hangman Adam Page should lose at Double or Nothing. Check that video out. We'll see you over there.